Hello. Thank you very much. And it is wonderful to be in Los Angeles at CoMotion for this important conference. Given that we are discussing the possibilities of future travel, I'd like to set out a scene perhaps 10 years from now. We're celebrating the end of another fantastic CoMotion conference by heading to the beach. I hear Santa Monica is nice. We use a dedicated travel app with a range of options, each outlining their own carbon footprint, accessibility score, cost, and duration. At our fingertips, we have up-to-date live information about train times, buses, car share availability, even e-bikes and e-scooters if you're feeling adventurous. We hop on a zero-emission bus, having already paid via the app. But there's no need to say hello to the driver because there isn't one. This bus drives itself. Road vehicles along Wilshire Boulevard are connected to each other and the traffic lights, meaning that the traffic flows easily in a city which is no longer one of the most congested in the world. Our bus journey has not only been effortless, but safe, emission-free, and incredibly efficient. And I know that we are in the heart of the land of Hollywood, but this isn't the stuff of science fiction. Some of it, like electric buses on the G line, is already here. But it is all possible, I believe, within a decade. Part of the long arc of technology and transport that for hundreds of years has sought to overcome the challenges of the day, allowing people to travel further and faster, to access jobs and education, and boost the quality of life. Thinking about the current challenges, indeed today we're not short of challenges to overcome. In the UK, the pandemic has accelerated the need to level up our country. Ensuring our new economy post-COVID spreads economic opportunity fairly, no matter where you live. And only last week, we were reminded of the other great challenge facing us, climate change. In Glasgow, the global community came together around a single goal: to reduce emissions as fast as possible. And the UK is showing global leadership on this issue, proving that future economic growth can and must be green. So my message today here is simple. We will not deliver this fair and green economy with our current outdated transport systems. And to borrow from the themes of this conference, we need mobility that renews, inspires, connects, and reimagines. We need mobility that is fit for the needs and challenges of this century. And I would like to cover these three areas where the UK is making progress on future mobility, starting with our future transport zones. These zones, comprising 4 regions, are test beds for new mobility projects, and with £92 million of funding, they're bringing together the best of tech and local government to transform our future travel habits. We're seeing the schemes such as mobility as a service platforms, which allow passengers to plan, book, and pay for multiple transport services via a single, seamless user experience. Right now, students at the University of Derby are trialling an app that integrates bus and rail services, with more transport modes to follow. We've also launched the UK's first mobility credit scheme in the West Midlands, where motorists can trade their old polluting cars and receive £3,000 worth of mobility credits on a dedicated credit card. It's proved popular, with credits spent on e-scooters, rental cars, bike shares, and new bus services across the country. In fact, over 1 million active e-scooter users have covered almost 10 million kilometres within our future transport zones. That's the equivalent of going to the moon 25 times. And when ferry services to the Isle of Wight were disrupted due to the pandemic, drones stepped in to deliver vital medical supplies to hospitals, showing that necessity really is the mother of invention. The second area I wanted to cover today is our progress on decarbonisation. Like in LA, transport is the UK's biggest contributor to greenhouse gases, making it a vital route to achieving our 2050 net zero targets. And with road vehicles far and away the greatest emitters, I was delighted that in Glasgow last week, 34 countries, 41 cities, states and regions, and 6 major vehicle manufacturers signed up to our zero emission vehicle declaration, making the reality of clean travel and clean air more likely for millions around the world. Whilst the UK has pledged to end the sale of new petrol and diesel cars and vans by 2030, we're not stopping there. Our transport decarbonisation plan is the most comprehensive green print for clean travel, setting out how we'll reduce emissions right across the network, from the largest lorry to the fastest ferry. Since March 2020, more than 300 cycling and walking schemes have already been introduced right across the UK. It's part of an active travel renaissance spurred on by the pandemic. And it's backed by £2 billion worth of new funding to ensure that half of all journeys by 2030 are cycled or walked. We're also promoting new mobility options, such as car clubs and car sharing. For many, a car is still the most convenient option to get around, but 62% of car journeys are taken by lone drivers, a staggering statistic that stayed pretty much constantly for nearly 20 years. Increasing the average road vehicle occupancy, even marginally, could save the same amount of carbon that buses emit in an entire year. And for those in rural areas, like where I live in the Lake District, in the northwest of England, we're finding ways to increase connectivity, such as trialling demand-responsive travel, where at the touch of a smartphone, a minibus can pick someone up nearer their home at a more convenient time. But as COP26 showed, no one country can go it alone. This shared challenge will need shared solutions. And that's why I am delighted to be here in Los Angeles today to sign an MOU with the Los Angeles city and reaffirming our commitment to reduce emissions from our transport systems and continue to work together on policy and on regulation. I think it's appropriate that this MOU was signed in the state of California, which legislated the nation's first cap on greenhouse gases back in 2006. It was a starting pistol for the now global race we're in to save the planet. And turning to the third area, I can't give a speech in the state that gave us the likes of Tesla and Uber without mentioning self-driving vehicles, the most exciting transport innovation in decades. It's part of a growing market, projected to be valued at almost £42 billion by 2030, by when 40% of UK sales could have self-driving capabilities. The benefits are vast. Will not only create tens of thousands of new highly skilled jobs across the UK, but everyday journeys will be greener, more flexible and more efficient. The hours now lost in congestion will turn into gains as commuters can use their time more productively. With the risk of driver error reduced, journeys will be safer. And older people or those who live in rural parts of the country will benefit from self-driving buses and taxis, giving them better access to services and allowing them to travel more freely and flexibly. A transformation of this scale requires the right conditions, and it starts with investment. That's why the UK's Centre for Connected and Automated Vehicles has helped to secure £400 million in funding, supporting over 90 projects involving 200 organisations. Secondly, it requires a legal framework that encourages rather than stifles innovation. The UK is one of the best and most open places in the world to test automated vehicles, thanks to our world-leading code of practice, but also because of Testbed UK and its 6 globally unique testing facilities. Facilities which the likes of Hitachi and Nissan are already engaging with. A self-driving future is a matter of when, not if, and combining the reach of government and the ingenuity of business, the UK is positioning itself at the forefront of this transport revolution. Before I finish, I want to cover an issue I feel particularly strongly about. I mentioned earlier that transport has the power to change people's lives. After all, it was the railroad that brought thousands to Los Angeles a century ago for the promise of a better life. But it's vital that the future transport systems we design are accessible to all. In the UK, our violence against women and girls strategy is looking at how we make our transport network and public spaces in general much safer. It's an issue that's important to me, not just as a woman, but as a mum to 4 girls. And it's clear, even in my short time as a transport minister, that this problem will persist as long as women remain underrepresented across the transport profession, which is why I welcome the work of Mobility XX to increase the number of women in the transportation industry by 10% over the next 10 years. And I'll be speaking to colleagues in the LA Department for Transportation later today to understand how this city is reducing gender inequality across all forms of transit. Events like CoMotion remind us of the importance of thinking big, of allowing technology to be, in the words of Alvin Toffler, that great growling engine of change. That change cannot come at any cost. It has to serve the people. It has to make our lives easier, healthier, and safer, and it has to give us the tools to get on. As policymakers, that is, of course, where we come in. Setting the conditions so that the future of transport meets the challenges of this country whilst also realising its opportunities. A more fair and a more inclusive economy, which everyone can participate in, with thousands of new, highly skilled green jobs in green industries and better connected communities, which increase our quality of life. That is the future that's on offer. And that's what transport can help us create. Thank you.